Welcome to Grapplearts Radio.
Hello, everybody. Stephan Kesting from Grapplearts.com here with an end-of-the-year podcast. We're looking at 2016 in review, at least from a jiu-jitsu perspective, and a very personal jiu-jitsu perspective. I'm here with my buddy Ritchie.
Hey, everybody.
Hey. We're going to talk about where we've come in the last year and where we're planning to go in the next year. Also, just before we get started here, a public service announcement. If you follow me on social media, that's great. That's fantastic. I really appreciate it. But the most important things that I put out are all by email. Yes, you can sometimes get wind of it through social media, but basically, if you follow more than 10 people, all the stuff that people put out is going to get buried. So you've got to go to the source. And the source for me is the email. So if you go to grapplearts.com/newsletter and put your email address in, you'll never miss the most important stuff. Now, if you don't like what I send you, there's a manage your subscription link at the bottom of every single email. Click on that, click unsubscribe, and you are done. You're gone, and I'm never going to bother you again. But if you like these podcasts, or if you like things that you see from me on other social media channels, make sure to subscribe to the email newsletter, because that really is the center part of the wheel that all the other spokes hang off of. So, Ritchie, I know you desperately wanted to talk to me
about Star Wars, because I saw Rogue One and it was amazing. I loved it. Right? So
what did you think of Vader's Kali technique at the end?
It was awesome. Instead of using his checking hand, he just used it to throw people onto the ceiling.
That is some high-level stuff.
That is some high-level stuff. Total spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it.
Oops,
sorry. Nerds everywhere are going to be like...
No. The real nerds will already have seen it.
That's true. That's true. We're talking about the next level down nerds. Right?
The cheap nerds who want to wait till they can steal it and rip it.
Oh, exactly. The ones who will see it on a pirated format on their laptops.
Which is wrong. That's bad. Therefore, you deserve something.
That's right. You deserve to have Darth Vader in Rogue One spoiled for you, right?
And finding out that Chewbacca was living inside R2-D2, man, that was a huge revelation in Rogue One.
Oh yeah, exactly. And R2-D2 can talk the whole time. Actually, has an English accent.
Okay, now you're hopefully really super confused.
Yeah, exactly.
So you liked it.
I loved it. I mean, of course I loved it simply because it was just more Star Wars, right? But I loved it because the characters I thought were great. I thought the villain was fantastic. I thought the way that it looked was so unique in the sense that it didn't look like a Star Wars movie. To me, it looked more like Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, like more of a war movie, especially the fight scene, the epic fight scene on the beach, where the AT-ATs are attacking. And it just seemed more like,
what did people like in Empire Strikes Back? I know they like the Snow Walkers. Let's have lots of Snow Walkers.
I'm sure they were thinking about that. I'm sure they were.
Give the people what they want.
Oh yeah, and that is just an amazing scene in Empire Strikes Back, like the Allied Walkers when there was like all the soldiers in the trenches and. Like,
I have to correct you, Ritchie. I think they're AT walkers.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, super nerds out there, right? Who are going to hate me forever for mispronouncing it.
You only saw it on opening day. You didn't fly to another country to see it on...
No, I saw it as a 12 noon matinee on opening day.
What was the demographic like, Ritchie? Was it lots of... was it about equal? 50 men and women?
There were no women anywhere near this theater. It was all 40-year-old men. I'm a 40-year-old male. I was like, I walk in and I walk in and I look up and I'm like, this theater's filled with a bunch of 40-year-old nerds. And then I just go and I take my seat,
Present company excluded.
Present company excluded. I was like, oh, can't wait to get myself out of here. Look at these losers, But
well, they went back to their mom's basements, and you went off to the club to teach class. So
yes, that's the difference. That's the difference. I was living my dream, whereas I'm sure they're living their dream as well.
Fantasizing and reading on the internet and criticizing how people break arms. posting comments on
exactly.
your YouTube channel and my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah, exactly. They're
I have
going to
studied
criticize
every
me.
way to do the armbar
Yeah.
that's ever been shown in 12 different martial arts. And,
Exactly. Although I've never done it for real.
yeah.
And I think, it's funny how you say that, because that's one of the things that I've been really emphasizing as a teacher is to emphasize action, is to emphasize doing it. And
So what do you mean? Like, what's the trap that people get caught in, and then what are you doing to get them out of that trap?
a great question. One of the main traps is, I kind of just loosely call it the YouTube trap, where there's so much information that it's just difficult to streamline it and to create focus. There's just, you could go, and if you just went to YouTube and if you just wanted to learn about arm bars, there are so many videos on how to enter into it, how to maintain it, how to execute it from all these different positions, from standing, from a stalemate during a sequence. As a counter, there's so many different ways to do the armbar. And I'm finding that because there's just so much information, I find that a lot of my students are stuck theorizing. And they're stuck
Which of these 12 ways of doing finishing the armbar is the best, Ritchie?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
A little bit of the problem, I think, also comes from if you wanted to make a YouTube video that really got a lot of traction, you'd show the craziest entry you could dream of.
No, sure.
Well, hey, how about a flying 540-degree armbar?
Oh, sure. Like, absolutely. It's a sexy technique that is cool to look at. Like, if you see somebody athletic doing it, like David Ramos, like the Abu Dhabi finish that he did. I forget who he did it to. Was it Lucas Lepre? And it was like standing, and Lepre's in butterfly guard, and
that was a flying armbar.
Yeah, just
crushed him.
Just jumped on him and pulled the armbar out of nowhere. He looked like David Blaine doing it, just like a magic trick, like regurgitating, as someone who would regurgitate a frog. And I'm looking at it like, how do you regurgitate a frog? Like the way that David Ramos hit that armbar, I was like, how did you hit that armbar? It was as if David Ramos regurgitated a frog. Like, it was so weird and amazing. And it's one of those things where, like, I watched it again and again and again. To get lots of views, you would do something spectacular. You're right. You would show a technique that is spectacular,
but it doesn't reflect the 99% of arm bars that get caught in a day in, day out basis on the mats all over the world.
Well, for sure. Like, who among us could do that?
Who among us could find a training partner willing to demo that?
Oh, they're that too. Just even straight up demonstration. Like, okay, Stephan, basically, I'm just going to jump on your head and hopefully nothing will happen to you. But, accidents do occur. Like, you'd be like, I demo on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically a WWE flying butt drop off the high rope.
Oh,
and there was an armbar in the process.
Oh, basically it is. And, to get lots of people to view that video, to create a conversation, whether it's positive or negative, people saying that would never work, that looks stupid, that person would have to be a corpse in order for you to hit that, to generate a conversation, that for the most part would have a positive net effect for the person posting. Just gets you out there in a sea of videos, posts,
So then you've got your students who are, it's almost like a paralysis by analysis. It's a paralysis by too many choices. Yeah. So then what are you doing to kick them past this? Like, pick one of them, any one of them, or pick this one, and here's the best one?
No, actually, it's not even that complex. I'm just having them go. Like, that's what I say in my classes more than anything else. Like, if I'm not rolling, and I'm watching my students roll, I'm having them just to do something like go, attack, go, engage, go. I'm saying that more than anything else because I would much rather have my students do something, and this is mostly the beginners, somebody who is a high level purple belt, a higher level brown belt, the coaching is going to be different.
Right.
But
they already know that they should be progressing forward.
I think they already know that, right? But perhaps they're trying to set something up. Their fight is perhaps more micro in the sense that they're trying to win a specific grip, right? And so I understand that. And so I understand the complexity, and I coach them differently. If it's, a 6-month white belt and they're rolling with another 6-month white belt, it's more about them just exchanging movements more than them thinking about it. And I would much rather have them do something, fall in their face figuratively, right? Like to scope
an armbar and lose the top position.
Right. Than to not do anything at all and try to be too safe, try to win. It's like, no. You don't need to try to win right now. What you need is to just engage, just to do jiu-jitsu, flop around on the mat. Flop around on the mat like a fish, right? And do that, you'll get more benefit from that than, I think, than anything else. Just to do jiu-jitsu, just to flop around, just to roll around. Even if your movements are wrong, if you give up your back, you do something silly, right? It makes no difference.
You've learned.
Yes. Yeah. And yes, you have learned, but also it puts into context a lot of the things that I'll teach you. Because sometimes teaching jiu-jitsu or trying to learn jiu-jitsu off of your laptop, having maybe rolled a grand total of 20 minutes, like 4 or 5 minute rounds, right? Yeah. And learning it on YouTube and watching, DVDs, downloading apps, talking to other people that do jiu-jitsu, having this strategy in your head, and then actually physically doing it, the doing part is more important than anything else. It's like a great example that I loved when I was younger is reading Bruce Lee's Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and how he talks about learning how to swim on dry land.
Yes.
And how easy it is to learn how to swim on dry land, because for jiu-jitsu, there's just so much information. You could watch UFC. You can watch UFC with your buddies and then impress them with all of your knowledge of jiu-jitsu. You have jiu-jitsu knowledge in the sense that you've
you know the name of a submission.
Know the name of the submission.
You're going for a go-go plata.
Yeah, absolutely. You know the name. So you have this jargon that you can impress your friends with. Maybe they've watched your concepts course, right? And Stephan, they've watched your concepts course and they know how all these techniques work. And so a person could sit in a living room, watch the UFC and go, oh, well, he's doing it wrong. You see his weight displacement is off. That person's going to come up, and then the person comes up. They're right. And man, like how impressive it is to be right, especially amongst your friends.
Yeah.
Now, it's totally different than actually doing jiu-jitsu, right? Actually to do that move to another human being, right? It's totally different.
Especially if you're exhausted.
Especially if you're exhausted. Oh, for sure.
I love the Carlson Gracie quote. Yeah, if you take a black belt and you punch him once in the head, he becomes a brown belt.
Yeah.
Punch him twice in the head, he becomes a purple belt.
Oh, for sure.
And all the way down to white belt. I mean, it's one thing to know what to do. It's entirely a different thing. The energy management, if nothing else.
The energy management, totally. And
knowing how to breathe.
For sure.
Not to forget to breathe and developing the actual endurance.
No, absolutely. And this is where, dry land training of swimming is foolishness. You actually have to get into the pool.
Yeah.
And it's just like jiu-jitsu in the sense that you don't know what the water feels like until you jump in the pool. And you don't know what, like an armbar feels like. You don't know what bottom mount feels like.
And you haven't toughened yourself to that, crushing sensation of, somebody's knee on your face in the middle of the scrum. So a related topic here.
Sure.
I often get emails from people who live way the hell away from any jiu-jitsu school.
Sure.
Or way, some country where there is no jiu-jitsu even. And they want to know what to do. And my first advice is always, is there a wrestling or judo near you? And if there isn't, Because if there is, you do that. And usually if you go to, say, a judo club, and you say, hey, at the end of class, can we do some more newaza roll around? You can make a fair amount of progress. But let's say you live at the end of a dirt road that's at the end of a lonely highway that's far, far away from the nearest school. How are you going to learn jiu-jitsu if you really want to? You got to find a training partner. That's the number one thing.
100%, for sure.
And then, or better yet, a small training group. You can not call it anything fancy. You can just, hey, let's get together and try and figure out this jiu-jitsu stuff and beat each other up. And once you started doing that, I think it's really worthwhile to study instructionals, of course, but every once in a while you got to go calibrate yourself by making the trip, once a month, once every couple of months to the big city, even if that's just a brown belt teaching in a rec center, and going and against sort of normal white belts and normal blue belts and normal purple belts.
100%.
And just getting a sense of, I'm totally getting smashed when I try this thing that works in my little echo chamber of me and my two buddies.
Yeah.
I managed to always get out of mount by doing such and such. But when I try it against, I'm doing air quotes here, real blue belts, that it no longer works. So I think you can make a tremendous amount of progress training on your own, so long as every once in a while you go off and calibrate it against the real world.
And ultimately, you're right. You're right. And the thing is that it's tough to do, right? Like, the easy thing is to maybe you and, one of your drinking buddies, one of your hockey buddies gets together, once a week, watches, some instructional videos, watches some YouTube videos, and then, tries it on each other, like drill it. And then it's like, okay, let's roll on my carpet. Yeah. Right? And
ouch.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Roll on the carpet.
Yeah.
Having had rug burns on my head that were difficult to explain.
That'd be pretty difficult to explain. You know what? Have you ever done that? I've done that a couple of times.
Carpet rolling?
Oh yeah.
Bad idea.
It is. It's no fun. It's
especially
no fun.
if you're being kind to the other person, say, "Don't worry, I'll start on the bottom." I'm not going to promise I'm never going to roll on carpet again, but I will not start on the bottom. That is for sure.
That's so funny.
At one time at the fire hall, there was this 260-pound ex-rugby player who was like, "Yeah, I think I figured out how to stop that armbar from guard thing that I see all the time." I'm like, "Oh, cool, show me." So we go to the training room, which is covered in carpet, put an armbar on him, and he basically grabs my arm with both of his hands and starts picking me up. Now, he's a big, strong guy. The defense is not, he knows how to block the armbar. So he grabs one of my arms with both of his arms and pins on my chest with all his strength. Now, I swing into the armbar position, but it's a little bit difficult to finish. It takes me 20 seconds to break his grips and apply the armbar because he's a big, giant, strong guy.
Of course.
In the meantime, he's picked me up and he's like sweeping the floor with me.
Oh, no.
Rubbing my head back and forth over the carpet. By the end of it, I got the armbar. We established that the defense that he thought he had wasn't maybe the number one defense to go to. So I certainly won the battle, but man, did I lose the war. Because for the next, I think it took like 6 months or almost a year for the remnants of those scars on my head.
I'm sure. Jeez, that's brutal.
Honest dear.
Yeah.
That didn't work.
Yeah.
How did you... Yeah.
It was a learning experience. I was educating a friend, know. Yeah.
Oh, sure you were.
Sure. Yeah.
So, carpet bad. So, my recommendation to those people who want to train on carpet, put a tarp down over the carpet.
Oh, yeah, or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Or go and buy $100 worth of puzzle mats.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
All right. So, there we are. Your suggestion was...
okay, so...
drill something for a bit and then actually roll.
Okay, yes. So, actually roll, which is what, if you're into jiu-jitsu, that's probably the lowest hanging fruit, just to get a buddy over and just do some jiu-jitsu, just wherever you can, right? But ultimately, I say this all the time in my group classes, the real jiu-jitsu is in the group class, is in the open mat. That's the real jiu-jitsu where there's, 25, 30 other training partners there. There's people who are lower skilled than you. There's people who are of a higher skill than you. There's little people. There's muscular people. There's big, giant, beer drinking dudes. There's, super athletes that do triathlons. And every single cross section, right? Very analytical
people. The guys who like leg locks, the guys who like arm locks.
Stylistical, there's stylistic differences, right? People who are awesome at guard passing, people who have very slow, heavy game on top, right? Try to grind you out. People who it's like rolling with, like the Tasmanian devil. They're all over you, right? So the magic really is in a group class. However, if you live in a town that has 5,000 people, right?
Only a small percentage of them are going to be interested in rolling around on the ground.
Yeah. Like just a small percentage is just going to be in the same age demographic, And then out of that, an even smaller portion is going to want to train, do jiu-jitsu, even slightly interested. So what do?
The best you can.
You can't. I'm sorry, man. There's no answer. Go to a larger town.
If you're lucky, you can make some progress. You can make decent progress with one or two training partners.
Sure.
Some is better than none.
Yes. Some is better than none. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's not the same as going to a large club where there's 3 black belts on the mat, and then there's 5 brown belts, and then a bunch of super stud purple belts, right? And then everything, everything in between. There's people there that hardly even know how to tie a belt, and you can take a round out, go over, help one of the newbies. Right? Maybe coach them a little bit, have an easy round, like physically, and then grab some 22-year-old blue belt super athlete to roll with, right? So that's really, in my mind, really where the jiu-jitsu becomes alive, really becomes magical, where you can really hone your skills.
Yeah, you meet people who try and do jiu-jitsu all through private lessons.
Yeah,
I think instructors sometimes allow this because, of course, it's very lucrative for them. Well, you can, of course, come to the group classes, or you can buy a set of 85 private classes from me at $200 an hour, and if you pay them all up front, it'll only be $175. That's a lot of dough.
Oh, and it is. So it is. And right now, I don't do any private lessons.
And just to finish, you can't, even if you roll with your instructor, that doesn't. It's better than nothing, but it doesn't really count.
I agree.
He's going to either be completely crushing you, or he's going to be dumbing down his game.
Right.
It's going to be impossible for him to simulate another person roughly your level. And to quote Danny DeSanto, you make your most progress when you're fighting people just a little bit better than you or a little bit worse than you. It's still okay to practice against people who are way better than you and way worse than you, but your fastest progress comes from that sweet spot, which is people right around your level.
I've never heard that. I really agree with that. I really agree with that, Stephan. People who are just a little bit ahead of you, and then you're just a little bit ahead of them. That way you can work your
offense against decent resistance,
right?
Or your defense against decent offense.
Yeah. No, it really is. It's basically low resistance training. Low risk, low resistance training on your offense and on your defense, right? Where you'll have a high success rate or fairly high success. I actually really like that. I think there's a lot of brilliance.
Somewhere I'm guessing, I would say somewhere between 50 and 80% of your rolling time should be with people, ideally, roughly your own level. People are going to give you a good fight.
Sure.
And then somewhere in the, I don't know, what did I say? I said 50 to 80. That would imply that the remaining percentage of 20 to 50% of the time should be spent going against people who are better than you or not as good as you.
Sure.
By a wide margin.
Right.
So,
but back to your earlier point about only doing private lessons, I think it's...
But you don't do privates anymore. Really.
Well, personally, I don't. Right? Personally, I don't. I do train one-on-one with some of my students just because they need a little extra attention. They need a little bit of love, maybe they're struggling a little bit, right? They're coming back from injury. Maybe I could just feel like they're just having a hard time with jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu kicks you in the teeth constantly, which I think actually is one of those things that helps you become a better person. Because life kicks you in the teeth, right? And a lot of people just give up. Whereas jiu-jitsu, it kicks you in the teeth, but in a way where, kicking in the teeth meaning that you tap out.
Yeah.
right?
Or your great scheme that you had planned didn't work.
Right, and it didn't work. So I didn't get hurt. I tapped out. You got the choke. You got the armbar. And what happens after we tap out? We right away keep going. I don't go sit in a dark corner and contemplate for 48 hours after I get tapped out. Like, you tap me out, Stephan. The first thing I do is I slap your hand and we start going again. That simple act, I think, is huge in order to help you with life, with like your work. If you have your own business, you're constantly,
getting metaphorically kicked in the teeth.
Yeah. And jiu-jitsu teaches you how to lose. That's what it teaches you, because it teaches you that it is just like, oh, okay, well, it's okay that I lose, and that you lose a little bit.
Right.
That
it's not okay to give up.
Yeah.
It's okay to lose, but it's not okay to give up.
And it's not that big a deal. Like, you don't even remember. Like, you don't even, like, I actually don't.
Maybe fail is a better word than lose.
Perhaps.
Jiu-jitsu teaches you to fail. Well, as long as we qualify that, right? We both mean fail in little ways. Like,
right.
Oh, my armbar didn't work, as opposed to fail like, oh, screw this, I'm never doing jiu-jitsu again.
Sure.
I'm leaving.
Sure.
That would be a failure with a capital F.
Well, I mean, it's such a, there's such, there are terms that mean so many things to so many different people, the word fail. And, like you just did, Stephan, you just did that death march through the mountains of BC. How long did it take you? 17
and a half hours.
Wow, that's amazing. Fun. I'm sure it is, because you like crazy, treks through the snow, and, like, for 17 hours straight, you like to do crazy things like that. But you did this trek up and down the mountains of Vancouver, and in 17 hours, like, it was snowing, where there's snow everywhere. It's icy and it's wet. Like, how many times did you fall? Like, how many times did you?
There were a couple good wipeouts, but actually more in the reconnaissance, because by the time we did the actual training, we'd failed enough, or I'd failed enough on the early reconnaissances to know that, basically I had to wear crampons or snowshoes the entire time.
Okay,
so that's a good example of taking small failures, like a giant spectacular wipeouts, while trying to find different routes of the trail. Anyhow, the original route we were going to take ended up becoming too dangerous with a giant snowfall.
Smart.
The avalanche hazard would have been crazy difficult, or crazy high. So we tried to find alternate routes that would essentially take us the same distance and close to the same elevation up and down, but not put us at such a great risk. So in doing those reconnaissances, there were some super spectacular wipeouts. I'm glad I didn't break anything. Okay. So it's like, okay, note to self, bring crampons for the entire trip.
Okay.
So that's to stop you from slipping on the ice.
Okay, okay. So firstly, good for you for doing all the reconnaissance and also doing all the homework. And that's huge. And I think that...
But jiu-jitsu is the same way, right? Oh, I got caught in this armbar. I failed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, next time I'm not going to put my arm there. That's, you did the reconnaissance. And now, hopefully, you're not going to repeat that mistake, because you're going to take steps to avoid it.
For sure. And another interpretation is that when you were on your death march and you slipped and fell, did you go back to the parking lot and get in your car and go back home? No, you just dusted yourself off and kind of had a good chuckle, I'm sure, right? And then kept on going up the mountain. And the thing about jiu-jitsu, which I love, is that there's no undefeated in jiu-jitsu. Everybody has tapped countless times. Doing jiu-jitsu, you will always...
Hicks and Gracie notwithstanding.
Well, Hicks and Gracie notwithstanding, however...
As you don't count those tournaments that he entered where he didn't know the rules and then lost.
Oh, okay. Well, even the magical beasts of jiu-jitsu falter at times. But I'm sure, I don't know, because I don't have contact with Hicks and Gracie. I've never seen the mythical Hicks and Gracie in real life. But I'm sure during his jiu-jitsu journey, he tapped out at some point in time.
Yeah.
Somebody, somewhere, sometime tapped out Hicks and Gracie. Same thing with Rafa Mendes. Same thing with Marcelo Garcia. Somebody tapped them out, right? And I'm sure lots of times, not just once, I'm sure lots of times, it's a part of the process. It's a part of life to stumble, to, slip on the ice. You know what's really strange is that teaching for as long as I have, sometimes you get a feeling whether a student will really stick it out or, they'll be here for a little while and, they'll wind up doing something else after a little bit. And, of course I can be wrong. It happens all the time, clearly, but you just sort of get a feeling. And the person that comes into the school who is super athletic, football scholarship,
gymnast, triathlete,
there you
high
go.
School wrestler.
You name it, just like, covered in muscle. They have the genes, they have the genetics, they've got this super impressive resume, like done all these other sports and whatnot. And they come in and they start doing jiu-jitsu, and like their athleticism, of course, is a huge bonus.
Right.
Absolutely. Jiu-jitsu is an acquired skill, right? At some point in time, the natural ability will take you only so far, and you're going to get tapped out, right? You're going to get armbarred. You're going to get choked out. And when that happens, the person who's super athletic, super good looking, super intelligent.
Like us, clearly.
Yes, I was just going to say, I can't think of an example. Oh, just like Stephan Kesting, absolutely.
Super modest as well.
Super modest, there you go. The list just keeps on growing. But, life just came too easy, too many gifts. And, jiu-jitsu's hard. And then that's just it. What's jiu-jitsu like? Oh, it's hard. It's just like lifting weights. Lifting weights is heavy. Like, that's why it's called working out.
Yeah.
It's work, Like, if you...
Not relaxing out.
Yeah, like after leg day, if you can go, if directly after your leg workout, like, hey, Stephan, let's go do the gross grind directly after your arduous leg work, you would look at me and you'd be like, get out. Like, you shouldn't be able to, truck up a mountain.
Exactly.
After your leg workout, because otherwise there wasn't enough work in it. You didn't get the benefit out of it. You were just at the gym, doing selfies.
Which is the majority of my time at the gym, of course.
Oh, if I looked at you, if I looked like you, I would also be posting selfies of myself at the gym in my new leotards. But anyways,
Picard rash guard.
And your Picard rash guard. When somebody has too many gifts, they probably haven't lost enough. But I think that was, just looking back at myself, I never grew up doing sports. I've been doing martial arts I'm 41 now. I started doing martial arts when I was 21. And at 21, I didn't do any sports. Like, my parents just never put me in sports. I never did sports. I just, played soccer when I was in the schoolyard, but was never good at it. So when I started doing jiu-jitsu, when I started doing martial arts, I was supposed to suck. Like, I'm okay with sucking because it's what I'm used to. Like, I wasn't used to scoring touchdowns. So I wasn't used to, going in there and just wiping the floor with everybody. And because I was just like, well, I suck and that's just the way it is and that's okay and I'll just keep on going. Like, now, as a coach, as a teacher, I understand the psychology more in the sense that I haven't said this to my students yet. I don't think I've said this to anybody yet. But embrace sucking. Like, embrace it. Just accept it, right? Like, you're new. You're a white belt. You've been doing this for 4 weeks. Why are you shaming yourself? Why are you shaking your head and doing this negative self-talk?
Well, jiu-jitsu works, so that's why the guy with 12 weeks experience is kicking your ass when you got 4 weeks experience.
Exactly.
If it didn't work, you shouldn't be here.
Right. And why should you be better? Like, you shouldn't be. Like, if there's no logic to it. Mm-hmm. But people still, the negative self-talk. One thing I've said is, I actually made a big end of class summation, like a big speech in the class, and I talked for about 2 minutes about this, and I talked about the negative self-talk because I see it where people when they get tapped out And then they look at the floor, and you can see them mumbling to themselves, almost like they are calling themselves stupid. Not that I'm overhearing, not that I'm eavesdropping, but I could just tell. It is something along those lines. They're calling themselves stupid. They're like, I'm a dummy. And I say to them, like, that has no benefit. That has no benefit at all. I'm your coach. I'm your teacher. I teach martial arts. If I wanted to, I could say, dude, that was stupid. You're acting you're stupid. I could say that and get away with it. Like, in this context, and especially in the field that we're in, like,
people kind of expect the instructor to be a hard-ass asshole. Yeah, absolutely. Right? And it would be acceptable. Like, they wouldn't be rushing to the HR department, to complain on me. I mean, I could get away with it. It's better if it's in broken English and you're whacking them.
Oh, yeah. If only. If only. And I go to them like, I don't do that. Right? I'm actually in a position where I could. And yet you do that to yourselves. Cut that out. What I do in my classes, what I said earlier, like, what is the coaching cue is go, engage, go. And not only did I say that in the middle of the match, in the middle of them rolling, but I also say that when the person gets tapped out. It is like, go.
Mm. So to get over it or don't even dwell on it.
Yeah, exactly. Because I want them to right away just engage. Just physically start doing something as opposed to being contemplative, being reflective. There's a time and place. I'm all about being reflective. I'm all about that. I think, one, it will help you with your jiu-jitsu, but that happens when you're taking a shower after class. That happens during your drive home from the gym or on the walk as you walk home.
The next day at work when your employer is paying you, secretly surfing YouTube videos.
It's so funny. It's so funny how you said that. When I was a newly appointed blue belt, training every day. Not every day, like, a good 5 days a week, maybe 6. So I'm thinking like 5 for sure. And it was like tough training because being a blue belt back then was a major deal. And most
it felt like you were defending the honor of jiu-jitsu.
It really did.
Yeah.
In the school that I was training in at the time, it was mostly blue belts. Like, there was some white belts. There was some, purple, right? Belts. I think my instructor at the time was actually only a purple. I think Trevor at the time was only a purple. This is maybe 2000-ish. Regardless, being a blue belt back then was a major deal. But when all of your training partners are blue belts and they're about the same level as you, it's really tough training.
Mm-hmm.
When you and I roll, Stephan, it's tough training. It's because it's not like I can do one round with you, and then there's like I'll grab a nice, docile, slow-moving white belt, to do the next round with, right? It's not like that. It's like when you and I train, because our schedules are so busy. Usually, it's just you and me in your home gym, and it's 45 minutes to an hour of
dogfight,
right? And it's really, really tough. But imagine doing that 5 days a week with a grueling warm up beforehand, and it was just really tough. But during that time, when I was a blue belt, how much time I spent in school. I was in school at the time. I was in college, and I would just be contemplative about jiu-jitsu. I think that it created problem-solving abilities. It germinated certain problem-solving abilities because there was no YouTube, right? There's no YouTube, and
to solve the problems yourself, essentially.
I had to solve the problems for myself. Yeah, it was different back then. Like, my instructors weren't as. If you wanted specific help with specific scenarios, it was more about like, well, it sounds like it's time for you to take a private with me, Ritchie, right? Which I totally get. I run a business. My instructors at that time had a business. The idea was that.
I don't know. I've always thought that approach, as opposed to answering the bloody question, how do I escape an armbar? Well, you should come and do a private with me on escaping armbars. That's douchey.
The way I look at it is that there's different ways to, sell the private. We offer privates in my school.
Have you ever not answered a question like, okay, I'm trying this choke on Fred and it's not working. How should I adjust my hands?
Okay. So,
have you ever not answered that?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's because I think there's different levels of questions and there's different ways that I can answer a question. Okay. So right away to answer your question is like, yeah, I've absolutely not answered a question. And it's because I truly believe that me answering the question spoon feeds the student. And it is more beneficial for the student to decipher the answer for themselves. And I say that. And I say it's not like I'm being...
Sorry. Have you ever said, no, I'm not going to show you how to adjust your hands in this. Come and take a private with me for $300 an hour.
Okay, well, I would never say that just because that's not who I am, you know?
Okay, I get not answering questions that people aren't ready to hear the answer for, not answering questions that people can figure out for themselves, and you want to encourage them to use their own bloody brains.
Oh, for sure, because that has more value.
I agree.
You know, like, Jiu-jitsu teaches you so many things. It teaches you how to just keep on going, and that failure is not a big deal, but also it teaches you that you can get out of poor positions, right? Like, I'm broke, I'm getting sued, my wife just left me, you know, my dog just died, my car just got repoed.
Is this a country music song?
I'm writing on, yeah, that's right. I'm writing the next country music smash hit. But you can still get out of that position.
Yeah.
Like, you and I have been in dire straits with, you know, like in our lives. Sure. And we've been able to get out.
You
right?
pretty much summarized my life a few years ago there.
Yeah, that's right. How do you think I got that inspiration for my new country hit song? Not only does Jiu-Jitsu teach you you can get out, in a very, very, figurative manner, I can get out of bottom mount. I can get out of bad positions in my life. I don't know how to counter this guy's rear naked choke, but I bet you I'll be able to go and figure out a way by tomorrow morning.
Right.
And if you can't, hey, my name's Ritchie. I'm one of the instructors here. I'm more than happy to help. But I encourage them to figure it out on their own. Right. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it is just like, just move your elbow here. And then it is just like, wow, that makes such a huge difference. Thank you so much.
The keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, right? For me, it's not about me spoon feeding my students, because I want them to understand how to problem solve.
Right.
I want them to have skills outside of the gym, outside of the mats, outside of the dojo, right? And sometimes I want them to show them how a tiny shift can make a huge difference. And that's with everything. Like, you and I have businesses, and a little shift in our marketing, in our sales pitch, can have a huge difference. And I want to showcase that, and I want to try to teach my students what tiny shift can you make with this position that will make all the difference. And for them to figure that out on their own, one, builds a skill that they'll be able to use anywhere. Two, it will reinforce that. If they understand,
they learn it themselves, they'll remember it forever.
They'll remember it forever. And as well, I benefit from it, because how many times one of my students have shown me something that I've never seen.
But Ritchie, you're a black belt. You know everything.
Oh, I wish.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking about it the other day, because occasionally I get emails from people saying some variation of, once I know everything, comma, like you, comma, then I'll know I'll have mastered the skill. And I'm like, man, I'm still learning. I mean, in the last year, I've made huge advances in a couple different aspects of my game. My single leg X guard, I spent a ton of time in the last 16 months, year and a half, working on my single leg X guard, looking at how to get into it, how to transition out of it, how to sweep from it.
It is awesome. And your single leg X, I can attest, is awesome right now. How you maintain the position, it's really, really difficult for me to stop. And then your follow-ups is
a year and a half ago, I was a black belt, and my single leg X was, I guess it was there, but it wasn't as good as it is now. So in the last year and a half, I made a big advance there. I've also made a big advance with guard retention, especially working on different aspects of the frame and hip escape that I know Rob Bernacchi has kind of articulated for both of us.
Which has helped me tremendously.
Yeah, so that's two areas in which my game right now, I've continued learning. I was a black belt then, I'm a black belt now, but I think I'm a better black belt. What's the concrete example of something that you've improved on in your own jiu-jitsu in the last year? Other than the fact that you're a black belt, you know everything.
Well, yeah, I wish that was the case. To immediately answer your question, probably my leg locks. That's huge, and that was from Rob Bernanke, but it's also from you as well, Stephan. Like, your leg locks are really solid. I think that goes it dovetails well with your single leg X guard game. So, but your leg locks are, and they've always been really solid. You're the one that first introduced me to a lot of leg locks, especially the knee bar. You're the first one to really, really help me with that, just by tapping me out with it. And then there was like empirical evidence that, wow, it does work. And when you start looking for these positions, for these entries, you can start seeing them from everywhere. And you really helped me with that. But it just seems like your entries into leg locks, they just seem more dynamic. They just seem to really be more smooth with your guard retention. That was the key thing. I remember one of the, you got me with, we were rolling no-gi, this is a couple of months ago, and you got me with outside ashi, and you got me with a heel hook. And the entry I didn't even see. I was passing your guard, and just the way that you entered into it. And then by the time I had figured out that, okay, I'm in outside ashi, I was already tapping because I thought that, my foot was going to implode upon itself. And I thought, like, wow, like the entry was so solid. It was just so smooth, and it just worked so well with your guard retention. And for me, I think that's where I've taken my game, in the sense that I've been working a lot more on my leg locks. I think more specifically, my defense to leg locks is way better.
Yeah.
Way better. I'm a lot more relaxed.
I can attest to that. It's becoming much, much, much harder.
Thank you so much. It's so funny because I know what you mean. When I know everything, I'm going to then, whatever the statement is, when I hit my goal, then I can relax. When I'm able to achieve this, I can relax.
You know what? Maybe this comes from, like, when I retire, when I work for Ford Motor Company for 35 years and get the gold watch, then I'll be retired and can relax. And I think neither you nor I, nor the majority of smart people out there, think this anymore.
No,
we
not
think
at all.
We're going to be working till the day we die.
Oh, for sure.
Probably the pension that we've accumulated is gone.
Well, not only yes,
and we enjoy the things that we do. So why would we stop?
Absolutely. And you nailed it. The day I pass away, the day after, there will be an email saying, Ritchie won't be teaching class. He passed away in his sleep. Like I fully expect to teach until the day I die, like where my students expect me to show up and teach. And there will have to be a message sent out to everybody, beamed out to everybody's Google Glasses or to their iWatch or whatever, and say like, oh, hey.
With footage of that angry husband chasing you down the street.
Yeah. Ritchie, I warned you once. I didn't know.
Stay away from my 3 wives.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that'll still be my hobby years from now. But anyways, we're getting off track. Let's talk about jiu-jitsu.
Better living through chemistry, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think the idea of completion, when I finish high school, when I get my degree, when I achieve this point, when I get married, it will be complete. When I buy my house, it will be complete. And we're looking for completion. And the way I look at jiu-jitsu is that it's never complete, because it's a painting that is never finished. And there's always new things to learn. And I personally love learning. Like, I'm such a information addict. I think you are too. If we're not reading, we're watching instructional videos. If we're not watching instructional videos, we're watching other YouTube videos or documentaries. Or if we're in our cars, we're listening to podcasts. I love learning so much. And, why would I just stop doing what I love? Why would I stop learning? Right? I love it so much. But I think it's a lot like going to the gym and lifting weights. It's not like all the bench press that I did when I was in my early 20s. Oh, I'm glad I did all that bench press in my early 20s, because this is the reason why I have such perfectly defined pectorals now. It's like, well, no. You always have to do the bench press. No. You always have to do the heavy squat. There's no like, well, done my workout.
You can rest on your laurels for a week or two, and that's about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But that's it. It's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. What does Tim Ferriss call it? Lifestyle design? Is that what he calls it?
I think that term sounds familiar.
I think lifestyle design to me means finding happiness in your current place, in your current station in life. Like, regardless of where you are, you're a white belt. So we were talking about my time as a blue belt and how it was like hard training all the, like I just had fewer responsibilities. I went to school and then I went and did jiu-jitsu. Like, it was a simpler time in my life, and was it hard? For sure it was. Right? I found school to be really, really difficult, and I found jiu-jitsu at that time to be really, really difficult. I wish if I had a time machine, I would go back in time and I would tell myself to enjoy this period, to just savor it, because it was such an amazing time in my life. That's what I would go back and tell myself. But at the same time, when I first started my school, when I first started infighting, and how stressful it was and scary, and if I had a time machine, I would go back and I would say to myself, embrace this time in your life, because it's magical. This decision that you've made, starting your own school, it will change your life forever. And then when I opened up the second school, how scary and terrifying and stressed I was, and I couldn't eat. I didn't even feel hunger because I was so stressed. But wow, if I just savored it and just like, this is this is where I'm really going to pull things together. This is where I will really find out what I'm made out of. If I had a time machine, I would go back 2 or 3 years and just say, remember this time. It's so important. My point is, embrace this moment in your life. Like me doing this podcast with you, sharing our thoughts, and that people might actually be interested in conversations that you and have on a regular basis, right? Like, this is really, really cool. And so the whole idea of lifestyle design, it is, to me, the complete opposite of, oh, well, when I reach black belt, or when I learn everything, or when I retire, it's like, screw that. Embrace the moment.
To quote a movie that a very small percentage of our audience will recognize, Buckaroo Banzai, wherever you go, there you are.
Oh, yeah. Man, I don't even know if I've seen the whole thing. I've seen parts of it.
It was a cult thing. And
movies from the 80s. Yeah.
A friend of mine, I think, once met Peter Weller. I really liked that Buckaroo Banzai movie. And Peter Weller was really confused that anybody remembered it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because I think he was just known for RoboCop. It's the same guy as RoboCop.
Oh, yeah. It is.
Everyone remembers RoboCop. Nobody remembers Buckaroo Banzai.
Oh, for sure. RoboCop's amazing. Yeah, RoboCop's amazing.
Okay, enough yapping about training. Let's go out into the dojo and do some actual training.
This is really cool.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, awesome.